Hello guys, I hope you are doing well. For example, I start the additional, for example, investigation, the additional teaching and notes about the LCA, life cycle assessment. Now in this slide, we, for example, we want to investigate CML-IA non-baseline expected impact assessment. So, for example, in the previous section, we have finished that, for example, when you select the method in the semaphore software about the global method, but in this, for example, in this lecture and also the part of the previous lecture, we focuses on the European method. And for example, we investigated and also taught about the CML-IA baseline, and also, for example, in this slide, we want to teach you about the CML-IA non-baseline expected impact assessment. The CML-I, the CML-IA non-baseline method is an extended version of the standard baseline method. It includes additional impact category that are not part of the baseline version, allowing for the more detailed environmental analysis. However, this increased level of detail comes with the trade-off. The non-baseline version is less standardized, which makes it harder to compare results across different studies. For this reason, it is not commonly used in the most scientific publication unless a specific research question requires additional impact categories. In general, the baseline method is preferred, while the non-baseline method is used only in the advanced and specialized studies. For example, and also the key characteristics of the CML on a non-baseline is, for example, it has a higher level of detail, but it also, for example, for the specific target, and also it has a more flexibility. But for example, in comparison with this methodology, CML-IA with the baseline, it is not, it is less cost. Let's have a look of the, for example, in this slide, I want you the information about the European normalization set in the CML. The European normalization sets are designed to represent environmental impact within the Europe. For example, EU 25 is one of the most commonly used data set, and represent the environmental load for the 25 European countries. And also we have EU 25 plus 3 is an extended version that includes additional countries and updated data, typically based on the year 2000. And also the normalization sets are particularly useful when the study is solely focused on the Europe, as they provide more re- regionally relevant result compared to the global data set. For example, if you want to do the life cycle assessment in the one country in the Europe, it is more preferable that, for example, to use that, for example, the CML in comparison with the recipe in the global. And also the interpretation of the result for the policy making and regional sustainability analysis in this method is much easier in comparison, for example, for the specific area in Europe. Also, we have, in addition to EU-wide data set, CML also provides a more specific normalization set, such as the Netherlands in the 1997, that, for example, it is a country-specific data set and used in the early LCA study. And also, for example, beside that, we have a West Europe in the 1995 represent a border regime, but is based on the older data, and it is a regional data set and represents older environmental condition. The key point, these data sets can be useful for historical comparison or country specific studies, but they are less commonly used in the modern research due to their limited scope and outdated data. For the most application, EU 25 or EU 25 plus 3 are preferred over these older data sets. That is, for example, normalization, for example, in the 1997 about the Netherlands, but as you know that, for example, every information or data may be changed from the time to time. Let's have a look about the word normalization set in the CML and also about the available data set. Global normalization set represent environmental impact at the worldwide level. These data sets are useful when the goal is to compare results across different regions or when the study has a global scope. For example, Word 1990, Word 1995, and also Word 2000. The different years correspond to different environmental condition and data habitability. For example, Word 2000 is a more recent and generally more representative of the current condition compared to the Word 1990. And the key characteristics of the word normalization set in the CML, the first one represent global environmental impact, and the second part can international that can be compared in the international level. And also using global normalization is especially important in the international studies and or when comparing different technology across countries. Now we have in this slide we have a look of the this point how to select the appropriate CML option. Choosing the correct CML setting depends on the global and scope of your study. If you need detailed analysis and additional impact categories, the non-baseline method can be used. However, this is really necessary for a standard study and only for example, for the advanced study. For the regional studies in the Europe, EU-based normalization such as EU5 is the best option, and also the specific data set like Netherlands or West Europe are mainly useful for historical or localized studies. For international and comparative studies, word normalization such as Word 2000 are more appropriate. In the most cases, a combination of the CML baseline with appropriate normalization provides the most reliable and interpretable results. No, for example, in this case, for example, in the future session, I want to teach you another European method in the LCA about ecological scarcity method in the which was developed in the 2030. Have a nice day and goodbye.